You are now listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm joined by Edit B. Kiss, a holistic mentor, success habit coach, #1 best-selling author, humanitarian award winner, and international speaker. Edit guides people from misery to peace in as little as 30 days by weaving ancient healing techniques with modern neuroscience. After a 15-year career in petroleum engineering, she followed a powerful calling into holistic healing, and her journey is a beautiful example of transformation, devotion, and personal growth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to share some of your work with our audience today. I know they will appreciate it. So, for those who do not know you already, could you share just a little bit about your personal journey and kind of what guided you into doing this work?
Yes, so when I was in my 20s, I experienced panic attacks and I didn't know what was happening to me. And then I didn't wanted to take medication. So I was searching for some natural remedies. And that's how I got introduced to Reiki healing. And then first, I was just a patient, a client, and then I decided to do level one, level two, so I can do it on myself and also help my family members. So I didn't thought about it like having a business back then because I was a petroleum engineer. So this was more my sanctuary, my peace, And when I was working and then I had a weekend off, then I just joined my Reiki master for a family constellation therapy or extrasensory retreats. So that's, and then if I had some issues in life, some relationship issues or health issues, I always went there for some healing, some help. And that's how it was for many years. And I was kind of comfortable with the situation, like managing my things, managing my panic or managing my illnesses. I always felt better after doing this. Modalities. But later, I got introduced to karma yoga healing, and then I realized that this is something more powerful, something which I never experienced, and it was really shocking for me that that kind of thing exists, and the mindfulness behind it, the science of consciousness. So it wasn't just an energy healing tool; it was many things combined. It was the karma healing, the ancestral healing, the source memory healing, what you can use for your PTSD and for your emotional roller coaster, And then it was just flabbergasting how many things we can do with these tools. And it was originated from the Kashmiri Shaivism. So I was really excited about it. It's completely shifted my purpose, my vision, my life. I actually, within 5 months, I moved into London and established my healing business. And while I was still an engineer, like a contractor for a while, I was already having this business, having this dream and vision to help others because it's already helped me so much in a couple of months, these tools. And then it's just really amazing.
Beautiful. So with the ancestral karma, could you kind of define that for us? And what are some common ways that this work can support people or show up in their lives?
Yeah, so when we encounter a challenge or encounter some struggles in life, we don't really know, where is it coming from? It could come from ancestral karma, it could come from your own karma, or it could come from your traumatic experiences as a lesson, as a pattern of lessons until you release it. So you can't really say like, okay, this challenge came to me because it's an ancestral karma. But if you come to a challenge, something where you need to make a decision and you need to be really careful what kind of decision you make because why you were inherited this karma from your ancestors is like, will you make the same mistake? Will you actually continue this karmic cycle or you can actually stop it? And making a different decision, a decision when you don't hurt anybody, you actually staying kind of neutral or bring it into a positive situation, then that's how you stop karmic patterns, basically. Another way to do it is There is special meditations I learned from my teacher, and these are specifically ancestral karma release meditations. It's like a 1 hour long meditation, which nearly includes all kinds of possible ways how the karmic situation could happen. So just doing that meditation is also help you to eliminate these challenges.
So the practice is connected to doing like meditations and, are you guiding them through that and giving them
Yeah,
meditations and then they do them and kind of come and consult with you and
so this meditation is very specific. So there they can have access to this through certain levels of my membership. I have a school community which called Release with Ease, and in that membership, the premium members have access to the ancestral healing package as well. And the normal members can have access to other meditations like samadhi or some other karmic depth release meditations or pyramid manifestation meditation. But this specifically, this ancestral healing, there is several ancestral healing meditation there, which is not just for karma, but also ancestral trauma, ancestral defect. So that's a different package level.
all right. And in the intro, it had talked about like 30 days. Is the effects of them, working with this practice, is it pretty rapid? Is it something that they start to notice soon after beginning the practice, or is it like a lifelong thing?
Yeah, yeah. So the thing is, why is it 30 days? I had clients back in the days, like in 2022, when I had 8 weeks programs, and in the 8 weeks programs, I kind of guided them through the same similar thing when they came to me feeling lost or came to me with PTSD or came to me with depression. And then I already realized that after 4 weeks, they were already smiling, happy, encouraged, ready to go, all brightened up. And I was like, okay, so if it's already 4 weeks, we reached that, then I can just have a 30 days incubator and make it like a powerful punch, And then basically that's what happens. Like in these 30 days, I give them access to all the meditations, not just the basic ones, but for the ancestral healings and the karmic healings meditations. So I give them guidance like which day to do which meditation. And also they meet me like once a week for a deep trauma healing session, the source memory healing session. And then they also listening to my course, which is called the Life Transformation System course, which is explaining them about basically what is happening to them. Because sometimes people waking up in the morning and say like, why I'm feeling this way? Why I'm feeling that way? Why is it going on this in my life? So this course is actually helping them to explain like about vibration, about ancestors, about mindfulness, about positive thinking, like all of these things, which is like can open their eyes up on this programming, and then know that actually there are things you can do to better your life. Just you need to be a bit more conscious, about these things. So that's the course. So that's all included in these 30 days. And then if they follow through, basically it's very powerful. That four session is also very powerful because this 4 session is 4 different things which we heal in there. So if they come to me, for example, with PTSD, so they had a trauma, they remember, they were maybe beaten up when they were a child, and they still have flashbacks. So that's what we pick up on the first session. But the second session can be a different thing, like how they feel with their coworkers or in their relationship. Or so every session is different. So at the end of it, like 4 big aspects of their life is already cleared out, and then all the ancestral and karma as well.
Right. Yeah, it's been kind of interesting myself because for a long time I had a yoga teacher and we would introduce like a new mantra. We would do it for 40 days and I think there was a part of me that was kind of skeptical, but I would still do it. And I'm like, it's amazing how coming back to this practice regularly really does help change something within me. But I guess it might be connected to maybe the neuroscience as far as like repeating something over and over again and then creating a new pattern um, in the
It
in the brain. So,
It depends what kind of mantra is it. If it's
Mhm.
a very deep prayer, like if it's a yoga teacher, maybe it's not just an affirmation. People
Right.
sometimes cause affirmations as a mantra because they repeating it and they saying it often. But sometimes it's just a slogan or an affirmation that I feel amazing or I am happy.
Hmm.
But that's because just you repeat those, they are not mantra yet. They're just affirmations, repeated affirmations, right? The
Right.
mantra, I call mantra more the things which is like very deep prayers for higher dimensions. So if
Hmm.
you use those mantras, do you actually pray to higher dimensional ascended masters, or different I don't know how to call them, like spirit guides or angels or
Right.
whatever. So basically, if you use the mantra towards them, then they actually also shift your life very powerfully.
Right. Right. Yeah, my yoga teacher was very specific. You have to say it exactly this way. Um,
Mm.
and it's like the resonance of the sounds that you're making. So I think that's where if you're just translating it to English and like, oh, my life is good. And it's like that, those haven't worked as much for me
Mm. Yeah.
as the actual mantras themselves. But how can people recognize when they're in a karmic cycle versus just are they simply repeating a habit or pattern that started in, maybe this lifetime?
It is again not always straightforward. So that's why I do this in the 30 days incubator. That's why I do all of those things, like just to make sure we turn all the stones, right? So
Right.
it's like we don't left any unturned because we can't really say that if it's created in this lifetime or if it's coming from past life. How you can actually and it can even come, this belief or this habit pattern can come even from ancestors as well, not as a karma, but like an ancestral trauma can initiate this as well.
Hmm.
So what is important is again to how it makes you feel. We always start from the point, how is it triggering you, how it makes you feel, and from those emotions going back into this lifetime or past life memories through source memory healing and release those and heal those, and parallel to that also working on the karma basically.
Hmm. Could you explain a little bit about the source memory healing and how it supports like shadow work and, the deeper inner workings?
Yeah, so shadow work is an interesting thing. Some people don't really know what it is or how to explain it. So shadow work, in some aspects, I would explain it as deep healing work, right? But they call it shadow work because they say, okay, it's because it's about your shadows, what you are feeling like guilty about or ashamed, and that's why it's called shadow. Because many times the healing is healing your guilt or releasing your guilt and shame. You need to forgive to yourself. Very often that's what's happening in these past memories. Is not You need to not just forgive to the betrayer but yourself as well, because sometimes you feel like it was my fault allowing it to happen to me. So that aspect needs to be healed too, not just the pain points or the hurt or the heartbreak, but how you feel about yourself as well. All the emotions needs to be released and replaced, and that's how we rewrite the past, and that's create a brand new future.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up forgiveness because that comes up in my Akashic records a lot as forgiveness is kind of helps clear karmic like
Exactly.
debris. And I think some people tie that so much into maybe like the Christian traditions. Like they think, oh, you just have to forgive because, this Jesus forgave or something. And I'm like, I think it transcends that. I think it's like a bigger
Yes.
um, lesson
And
for us.
yeah, but we need to understand that when you forgive, it doesn't mean you treat the person the same way. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
like you welcome them again into your table. That is a saying, like
Hmm.
it doesn't mean like you welcome them to your table. So basically, you don't need to trust them again. That doesn't mean that. It just means you let go and you forgive for that what they've done back then, but
Hmm.
then you don't need to trust them again, or you don't need to give them another chance. Or it's not about
Right.
that. It's about you feeling lighter, you feeling that, okay, I let go that thing, I forgive. And why is it so difficult for people to forgive? Because they believe that actually that person caused it to them, so they point their fingers on it. How I explain to my clients what is going on is that you only take action 5% of the time from your conscious mind. The rest of the time, like 45% of the time, you act from subconscious, and 50% of the time you act from superconscious, which means when something happening to you or someone is doing something against you, they are either under the programming, the subconscious programming, which means whatever is in their environment, whatever they went through, how they treated or how they grew up, that's actually created that situation, or the superconscious, which means it's your own karma, what you need to go through them. Maybe you hurt them as
Hmm.
well in past life. Now you're just paying it back. So that's why is you can't really point your finger on the person who did something to you, because it can come from so many directions. Why is it happened to you? It was really shocking when I had this realization from through some of the healings as well I've done with my clients, and one of them was I had a client who was raped, and then she had several people around her who was doing that to her, and then suddenly when there was a person, they were drunk, they were young, whatever. So basically one time when she actually was about to be raped again, and then the person, she called him up on his name, he flipped back to consciousness hearing his name, he immediately stopped and left. So
Mm,
that showed that he was under the manipulation and the control of the tribe or of the group, like subconsciously. And as soon as he got his name, he realized what the heck I'm doing, then he just left. So that's what is I want to explain, that is very often when something happens to you through someone is they were under an influence, any kinds
right,
of influence, either subconscious or superconscious.
right, right. I think and it's easier to kind of forgive from that space, realizing that not everybody's acting consciously. And if you're trying to look at the world through a more conscious lens, it's like, well, I wouldn't do it that way, but, maybe I can forgive and move on with my life, accepting that, everybody's kind of at their own point and doing their own healing. And there's definitely a lot with the past lives as far as you go back and learn some things. I've had some moments where I felt like a victim in this lifetime and then I get regressed and I'm like, "Oh, I understand now." So I think that does help with the healing to kind of see how at some point it is trying to balance itself out. Like you hurt this person in this way and now it's a different scenario, but now you're a victim, but you were the perpetrator sometimes in a past life. And I think that's where forgiveness is so essential because it's like, okay, we can stop this back and forth victim perpetrator thing over and over and over again, because if you keep hurting each other in every lifetime, I mean, it's the healing is really essential, I think, to set the tone for maybe a better future lifetime.
Yeah, you stop the things to happening. Yeah, it's not just the healing when you do it in a really deep level and with connecting with the superconscious, with the help of the superconscious, then basically you can stop them to coming to you. That's how you rewrite you rewrite the past and you create a brand new future. It's not like you becoming more resilient and then now you react or respond differently to the struggles. No, the struggle is going to be less and less as you continue the healing with these deep tools.
Right. And working through, things like the PTSD, like you were talking about, I think that's really deep work because it shifts our resonance from just being in victim mode because there's so many people that have been put in that victim place and it's like a trap. I mean, it's like they loop back around, around and around and they just play it over and over again and that feels kind of like hell on earth to me to think about just like being stuck in a memory and not knowing when that's going to hit. So I love people like you who are helping kind of guide people through that so they're not just kind of stuck repeating the same story to themselves. And then also holding the vibration of victim. And if you keep thinking of yourself like I'm a victim, I mean, that's kind of its own, affirmation. And I don't know. I do think sometimes we need kind of a guide or some kind of outside support to help kind of recognize patterns and then also say, okay, here's a different way to think about that to start to kind of restructure how you are reacting and responding to the pattern. So,
Yeah, and then it starts with the awareness, and then after the awareness, basically the deeper healing. Yeah.
Mhm. So for someone who, hears the the word shadow work and they're intrigued, but maybe they're a little bit afraid of it. What is something that you could say to kind of help them realize that, like, the importance and like the healing potential there? Like, what can help them maybe approach that from a place where they feel more safe in that space?
Yeah, so there I met some people who said like, "Oh, I don't want to connect with my unconscious mind. I don't want to know what is like in outside of my 3D reality. I'm scared or I don't want that." But the truth is, you need to go out to your multidimensional existence to heal yourself and to fix what went wrong, to actually create a much easier and happier life for yourself. Do you want to struggle? Do you want to stay in this misery? Or you want to actually create a more peaceful and harmonious life? And for that, you actually need to connect with the family unconscious. You need to connect with your own unconscious, maybe going back to past lives for some couple of minutes, just to hear
Hmm.
those memories and to actually see your life completely transform. I think I mean, it works for me, and it works for my clients. I mean, they
Hmm.
also are very grateful and happy, and they're coming back always for more, because they feel how powerful it is and how much they like their life change. I had clients who were suffering in bad relationships, in divorce and abuse, and then now they are in a loving relationship, building, together something. It's just, for me, it's just so heartwarming to see, I'm so happy about them.
Right. And I think too, with like thinking about the shadow, we're illuminating it. So we're bringing light to the shadow. We're not making the shadow like worse, or it's not, to me, it's probably more scary for the shadow to not be assessed and then it just be helping you like, or pushing you to make decisions from a more unconscious place because you're not aware that the shadow's there. And I think some people maybe avoid it. And I'm like, it's still there though. I
Yeah.
think the shadow work is more about illuminating it versus, just bringing up a bunch of dark stuff. Like you're actually bringing it up to heal it. And so then you start to notice it more like, oh, is this coming from the shadow, which is connected to some past thing? Am I now reacting this way? So I feel like it's really more about bringing light to it than just,
Absolutely.
like some therapy work, they just have you tell your story on repeat and I don't know if healing can really happen if you're just telling the story, right? I think it might be
No, it's
re-triggering.
Yeah, you are still sitting in the rabbit hole. You just, it's even causing worse. Like I heard people after speaking therapy, they get suicide. So
Oh,
it's like because they actually started to remember more stuff and then steering it up, and then it doesn't heal, it doesn't release, it's just
right.
bringing it up into your conscious awareness. So
Hmm.
it's really important that I even do not support journaling. It's
Hmm.
the same thing. Like you start journaling, people say like, "Oh, I felt so released after writing it down." Yeah, maybe for temporary, but it still haven't got released the proper way. And then way how, if you could forgive, forgiveness is a really big key, as we talked about it. If you are
Hmm.
really able to forgive with your journaling and let it go, then you are amazing. That's amazing. But
Right.
again, there are memories which you don't know which else you need to release, because one situation have many memories which has the same, like for example, when I'm healing people and we come up with like, okay, why I'm feeling terrible about this thing, right? Then we go into the memories. Sometimes I release 7 memories for them, seven
Hmm.
different memories, 7 different occasions when they had the same similar emotions, because that was the label of like how it became more and more, became more and more closer to the thing that they actually manifested into a physical illness. That's the
Hmm.
thing, that
Right.
these memories is just coming, it start happening to you over and over again until, if you don't release it and you heal it, it becomes a physical illness. That's what happening. You can actually prevent diseases. You can actually prevent physical illnesses by just doing mental healings, like these kind of healings.
Yes, absolutely. As a homeopath, I see the layers of how it develops all the time, and most people come to the homeopath once they have the physical illness. So then we
Mhm.
have to trace it backwards. But, if you can assess it and do the work, I absolutely believe that you can prevent the illness. And
Yeah.
I've noticed in my own healing that sometimes if I go back to a memory and I spend too long on it, I'll start getting a weird physical symptom again. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And that's why I don't know, like you were saying with the therapy and journaling, and because it's like it pulls it back into like your vibration. And then your body's like, well, last time this is what happened. You got hives when you went here. And it's like I can actually sense that. And I'm like, okay, let's do the acceptance, do the forgiveness, and then it's like the physical symptoms will go away so quickly now because I'm very aware that our thoughts are that powerful. And then if there's an emotional response too, and now the body's like responding to that, the way it did in the past to that emotion. Um, so I do think it is good to really find some kind of peace and acceptance with it and just move on. And then if someone says a word and it brings it back up, like just for a moment, be like, okay, it's normal for that word to bring up something, but I'm gonna do the acceptance thing. I have this forgiveness prayer, and that's what I say. I just say the forgiveness prayer, and I just move on. And it's like it feels like magic, like instead of getting stuck and just being, a victim or depressed for the rest of my life. It's like, no, I'm gonna keep coming back to this if it comes up. If it wants to show up in another form, I'll accept it at that place where I'm at as well, and it is a process. But I do think we can get stronger and definitely become more aware of why we're having those responses and reactions and get to the root of it. So,
Yeah.
so with I hope I say this right. The Sekhem healing, am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Is that
Shechem or Sechem, yeah.
okay? Is that kind of like Reiki or is that its own?
Yeah, so it was actually developed in 1970s, so it's a pretty
Okay.
new one compared to Reiki, and it
Hmm.
was kind of channeled by a lady. Now I don't remember her name, but how it happened is that she channeled these signs and codes, and then suddenly she realized that it's not Reiki, it's something more, it's something bigger,
Mm.
and it's something more powerful. And then they created this new healing modality about it out of it, and basically it includes much more signs than Reiki. Reiki has basically the four signs. This is like 20. It has many more signs. And with Shechem, you don't just invoke the energy through your crown from the source and then project it through your hands. What you do, you invoke the energy from the Sirius sun and you bring it down to the earth and then bring it back, and that's how it goes to your palms. So basically,
Hmm.
you connect it with also with the earth energies, and then you use this Sirius sun energy, not the source, because it's an ancient Egyptian healing technique as it was channeled. So basically, it was used in ancient temples where was Sekhmet, a goddess, basically, and you can see these statues, this half lioness, half woman statues basically in temples, Sekhmet temples, and these were like healing temples. Like when people were sick, they went into these temples, and the Shechem healers helped them to basically heal. And then also, why is it different? Because Sekhmet represents destruction and then also creation. So it's much destructive and creative energy, which means it's much faster than Reiki. So when I was only a Reiki healer, it took me sometimes like a 1 hour session, like 60 minutes. Sometimes I even had 1.5 hour sessions. And then with Sekhem, since I was attuned to Sekhem, my sessions are 30 minutes. That's when
Mm.
the energy comes in, does the work, and leave. So it's much more powerful. It needs shorter period of time, and it's just yeah, more intense.
Right. It's interesting how, as you were talking about her as the goddess, it kind of made me think of Shiva because there is this sort of destruction and rebirth, and it's not just moving the same thing around, it's like clearing. There's a clearing that comes with the energy as well. And I could see how that would be like twice as fast versus, maybe just staying on the surface. Sometimes you do just have to kind of have a fresh slate. And that's definitely something I've always loved about Shiva's myth. And it seems really potent and powerful. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about the Kashmiri Shaivism, if I'm saying it right. And I know you brought it up a little bit in the beginning, but what drew you to this tradition?
Yeah, that's the thing, that it was kind of like an accident. There is no accident in life. But at that time, when I was introduced to this modality, I was already a Reiki master. I already felt really happy about myself. I actually just lost like 20 kilos. So I was like really felt great about my whole life. I also moved from 9 to 5 to contractor position. So I really was in a good place about myself, even though my relationship was a bit in trouble, but I felt very happy about myself very content. And I was just invited to translate. So basically, they said, "Oh, can you help us out in this event because we need someone to translate from English to Hungarian?" At that year, I was actually living in Hungary. So I was like, okay, I can go. So I went there, but I couldn't translate the guru because his accent was really strong, Indian accent. And then the vocabulary, science of consciousness, all of this mindfulness and Kashmiri Shaivism, I didn't understood everything. I was like, I can't do this. And then basically they told me like, okay, they're gonna do it because they already are students of him, but then I can translate the booklets. So basically the materials. And I was like, okay, cool. So after one meditation, they will basically send me home to work on the translation. So it was a 3 days event, and I was just there for a meditation and then some speaking, And in that meditation, I got already activated. I got activated in my pineal gland. So I already started to have like extreme intense situations like synchronicities, serendipities, like callings, and I don't know. It was just started to be like really the shift already started happening just with one meditation. And I was also invited to help translate the healing, the one-on-one healing sessions he was doing with clients. And that was very powerful to see him doing the source memory healing, how he would do it. So it was, I felt really blessed to be there and on a couple of sessions of him. And after that, I felt so called and I was so happy about the knowledge, the mindfulness, and everything that I decided I'm going to take a part on the class too. So next time I went, I was basically on the basic, I did the basic level, the advanced level, and then I did some more other classes about the ancestral healing, about he had a different structure of teaching things than how I teach it now because he did it like in a 3 days events, with different ways. And then I'm doing it online on a different way because I have a worldwide community to take care of, and then he
Mhm.
was more like traveling to centers, right? So, and that was before COVID time. And then also I went to retreat to India when I was in the Shiva retreat, learning from him even more. And basically he passed away in 2022. And it was the time, like within months, like when he passed away, within months, my clients started to tell me, like, we love what you do, like this source memory healing on us, but we want to learn it because I'm already an angel healer, I'm already a Reiki master, they already had their modalities, and then they had clients, and they were like, I want to teach this to or show it to my clients, or I want to heal my clients with this. So I was like, okay, then I need to create a program for you guys now. So that's how I actually took all the informations, everything I learned, and then created a level one, level two, level three facilitator training for them, and created this, and then basically taught them online in a different way because I also knew what didn't work for me, but like
Mhm.
there was no holding hands between those 3 days events, there was nobody there to actually guide me like how I should do, how I should use these tools or when I should use these tools and all of these things. And I felt that that was missing. I felt a bit of a lonely journey, and
Mhm.
that was, I wanted to make it differently with my facilitators to them to feel that there is always support, there is always a community,
Right.
I'm always present. So that's how it was completely different.
Mhm. Yeah, I've definitely appreciated, I guess, some of the post-COVID online stuff because a lot of people can't travel, and so they're missing a lot of the opportunities, with that limitation of being kind of stuck, whether it's financially or, they have kids. That's my biggest thing. And so I'm really appreciative of people like you who've, done the work and you did travel and you had the experiences and you've integrated it in a way that's really accessible, for a larger group of people. Um, so it really is a gift, those who take large amounts of information and make them very tangible and practical for the collective. So, were there any specific practices or teachings from the Shaivism lineage that you found especially transformative in your own life and practice?
I mean, source memory healing itself
Right.
is a life changing thing. Like I still use it once in a while, need to use it less and less. I really realized that as I was, healing more and more things, is obviously I have less and less challenges or less and less things which triggers me, so I don't need to use that often. But it's still like one of my go-to tool basically when I just feel a bit of triggered about something. I was like, why? Like let's see what's the root of it. And other thing is ancestral release or ancestral healings. I believe they are really important because uh, when you heal your ancestors, you're not just healing them, you're healing the whole lineage, and then you also, through healing them, they gonna bless you. And why is the ancestral blessing is so important? They are in a higher dimension. And what is happening, we are in a 3D reality. So when they bless you, they can interact in this reality. They can really create magic in your life. Literally, we call it magic, but it's quantum physics. So basically, what happens is just I hope I explain it to people. Like if you have like a piece of paper and you have a pen and you have like a cartoon on the paper, like, it's like for example, you draw two people on the paper, right? And then they are having a conversation with a bubble something, and then basically one of them say like, oh, I wish I would have a coffee. So you go there and you draw a coffee in their hands, and they were like, oh, holy shit, where is this coffee coming from? They don't see you in the 3 dimension because they are in 2D. They have no other perspective about like what anything could be outside of that 2 dimension, that flat paper. So then they don't know you actually created that cup of coffee in their hand. The same thing in 3 dimension, you don't have any awareness of the higher dimensions, how they actually create the same thing in your reality. You wish for things, you see these, synchronicities, you see these numbers like angel numbers. These are not coincidence. They are constantly watching you. They are constantly communicating with you. They are constantly shifting things in your life, making phone calls, doing things, for you because it's possible. And then when you create healings for them, they blessing you with interactions, blessing you with they can even control other people's mind, and stuff like that, so to make it more positive for you. So never underestimate your help to others, like even if it's your ancestors or in a spirit world or in a healing your family, your soul family, your karma, how it's going to represent in your life later on. So it's really important work, and it's just going to better your life.
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you're kind of explaining the ways that we can connect with the ancestors because, in America, this this has been lost and a lot of people they're starting to figure out like maybe there is some connection to the ancestors, but there's no language for it and it's just not something that's really taught often. But I do think it's like collectively there and people are starting to be like, "Oh my gosh, like I think this might be a past life. This might be an ancestral connection." But I think it's hard if there's no guide to know like how do I connect to the ancestors? Like how can I, welcome them? Or a lot of people in America, I think they're very angry at their ancestors because of this whole like domination and like coming over here. And I think there's a lot of negativity that they feel towards their own ancestors. And it's harder for them because there is no outlet for how do we heal that? How do we love them even though maybe they like conquered, this beautiful other culture. And it's like, there's so much sadness, I think, connected to some of the things that some of our ancestors have done. And people are like, let's just not share their story. Like, let's pretend that didn't happen. And I'm like, well, I mean, but when you do the healing, like you help support them and then they also help support you. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge that it's a different time in history and like I don't know if when it was happening, if they really fully understood the spectrum of some of their choices, and so.
Yeah, you can step into the family unconscious and in a meditation state, and then you can actually communicate with your ancestors, and you can actually bring healings and blessings to them. So it's possible. I mean, Obviously, I didn't know other tools before I learned this technique from Kashmiri Shaivism. It's a 60,000 years old, secrets were in the Himalayas. So basically,
Mhm.
they were not open to the public. They were not open. I think I am one of the person really bring it out to the public and allow it to actually help people. And I believe I am meant to do this after the
Mhm.
guru passed away. So it's like feels like he's watching me. Feels like it's my
Yes.
responsibility to do these healings, and it's a really powerful work. And then I also want to tell people like you need to be in peace with your ancestors because the root chakra is representing your relationship with your ancestors and with your roots. And then if you are having negative emotions around your ancestors, then your chakra is blocked, and that's actually
Mhm.
affecting your stability, safety, and finances. So forgiving to your ancestors, to be in peace with your ancestors, to loving them is actually balancing your root chakra, and you're gonna have more finances and more stability and more safety. And also if you're experiencing already like physical pain in your legs, or
Mhm.
your feet, that also represent root chakra blockages. So then you really need to take care of this.
Right, absolutely. I think so many people, especially in the spiritual community, they're really into like their third eye and their crown chakra and like, going out here. And I'm like, I mean, it's really important that it's balanced in both directions. Like you're rooted and then you can also travel, pretty far out. But if you're not rooted, I feel like that can be kind of disorienting and spacey, and it's like hard to bring some of this spiritual wisdom that maybe you're collecting back into reality. And so I know I've met a lot of people, they're very spiritually advanced, but then when I talk to them, I'm like, this person is very confused and they sound, they're not grounded in this reality anymore. And I think root chakra work is so important. And I think it's not as idolized. It doesn't seem as like fun as like, going like way out into collective unconscious and stuff like that. But it's equally as important because it's like as above, so below. So if you're not functioning, if all of your centers are not, acting harmoniously together, then there's some kind of distortion and it's very
Yeah.
ungrounding for the people. But I'm like, how can we make this root chakra work a little more appealing to the collective and help them see the benefit of it and that I think it actually supports the higher centers as well. Like that's still important, but it's like it grounds the all the work you're doing into this realm because that's where we are
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I always say to my clients as well that over meditating is creating you more foggy or dizzy, and then we
Hmm.
don't do this work to escape the 3D reality. We don't go
Yeah.
out to escape. We go out to fix things and come back to enjoy this 3D reality because this 3D
Hmm.
reality can be so much fun and happiness and great,
Yes.
and awesome. But you need to go out to fix, to heal,
Hmm.
to get into things, order and then release and heal, but then you come back and then you enjoy the benefits of all of that connection, what you experience. Yeah.
Right, right. That's the beauty of it all. And I think escape is the word because I think this reality seems like boring to people or not as appealing and mundane. And I'm like, but you can, like you're saying, it's like you can make this pleasurable, you can make this joyful. But maybe they just don't have that example of that. So they're just like, okay, I want the aliens to come and get me. I want to bypass all of the hard work here and just, go straight to like this spiritual realm. And I'm like, but you chose to incarnate. Like I do feel like at some level, like we're here for a reason. And it's just really hard to get, I guess, people to have that example of like what is joy look like here, because it's like we see so many negative pictures of like people are starving and everybody's like financially unstable. Like we see these images projected at us all the time about all the bad stuff about the earth, and I'm just like, there's so much beauty too, and it's um I don't know. I think it is balancing for the person to do the spiritual work, but also what's the point if you can't enjoy life? If it's not bettering your life, then something's not harmoniously acting at that point, and it's a form of escapism, which is the same as like some of the drugs and things. Like they're taking it to not feel the feelings, and then they need it again and they need it again, and it's like, but if you just did the healing work, then you wouldn't feel like you had to escape from the mundane stuff because you would just accept sometimes life has those patterns, but it's also very beautiful and everything's, like aesthetically pleasing and there's good taste and then there's good smells. And, it's like we're so out of the body that I think we
Yeah,
forget what it's like to be, like to have pleasure and like, really experience the beauty of life.
yeah, absolutely.
So with your past life work, are those sessions like a part of some of these like day packages you do, or is that like a separate thing when they do any kind of like, do you do like
So
past life
for
regression or?
So past life regression, I teach it in level two in facilitator training, but basically I don't like past life regression doing it online. So
Mm-hmm.
past life regression is just something which I recommend to do face to face, in a
Mm-hmm.
physical situation. So I don't do it often, obviously, because I have most of my clients online, and
Mm-hmm.
for that reason, I don't use it much, that tool, but with source memory healing, very often we traveling back into past lives or between lives. I had clients who in the 30 days incubator, we were just going back to past lives. That 4 session was all of them past life sessions. It was nothing in this lifetime. I had clients who were like doing a work with me for a VIP package for the whole year. We never went to past lives. We always were
Mm-hmm.
doing this lifetime. So it's everybody is so different. And
Right.
I had clients who always like who went to between lives. Like literally they had to forgive the universe to push them into this life because they didn't wanted to born to this life. They were like against it. They remembered the space where they were before they were born, and then they were
Mm-hmm.
saying they're not coming, they don't want to come. So that was like one of the memory, and it was so funny. I had even people who had memory when they were particles in the space and
Mm-hmm.
they were like next to a portal and they were freaking out from the portal. So I heard so many beautiful stories. I just love working with clients and getting into these past life memories. Myself, I had past life memories a lot, like being a witch, being a priestess, being a most of the time I'm a healer, so I have a
Mm-hmm.
healer archetype most of the time. And I was once like an more aromatherapy healer or
Okay.
like energy healer. So that was all kinds of things going on. So yeah, so it's really interesting these past life situations. But just to see past life, we don't do sessions. So we always do sessions like for healing purposes, and we end up maybe in past lives, or we
Mm-hmm.
do sometimes Akashic record reading. But that's for like specifically from a person, like for with a person, like okay, what is this relationship, why we are in this connection, and what is this connection been in past lives, and then we tune into a couple of past lives, and
Mm-hmm.
then basically we also ask like okay, why we are here currently connected in this lifetime. So that's how we do it. And but it's kind of like going through a couple of past lives is already very draining energetically. So we do
Mm-hmm.
like three past lives, and that's it. That's one session. That's out of these packages. So it's just a fun kind of session what we do sometimes. But or I do it sometimes. I used to have back in 2022 or three. I had a Spooky Saturday event, which was like every second Saturday. I had a Spooky Saturday event when we did like really crazy spiritual stuff. Always going out there, meeting with ascended masters, doing these
Mm-hmm.
akash recordings. It was all very spooky. And we did that for a while. And some of these recordings are actually available also in Skool as a workshop recording. And it was really fun practices with those spiritual people. And yeah, so it's I do some of those as well. Like for example, initiating your dragon, teaching you how to use your dragon for healings,
Mm-hmm.
and also using the 5 elements, how to work with the 5 elements, how to initiate your fireball, how to heal, and how to use your fireball for protection. So I do this kind of stuff, and I many of these I channeled from higher dimensions. Basically, it was given to me when I was in pain or when I was in suffering, and I was praying for like help me to give me something, and they were like, okay, here you go. And then I went through that healing process, and I created a program out of it, or I created a situation out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that you've brought some of this work forward for the collective and share your gifts with others because I do think we receive these kind of insights, but a lot of people don't take the time to actually, expand them with other people because, and some people feel very limited, like they don't have that ability. So I do think it is important to, if you have that kind of knowledge and it's helped you, to give back. And I really liked when you talked about past lives too, because I think so many people think about just bad karma and like the bad things we've done and the hardships, but it's also cool to go and see like these themes in your lifetimes where you're like, oh, I'm a healer very often. Like this is a natural kind of resonance for me. This is like a gift I've brought forward many, many times. And I think discovering our gifts sometimes are just as important as, reconciling some of the the harder decisions that we made. And it kind of shows us like we have that natural affinity for something because we've done it so many times and it's like this there can be good karma too. It's not always just the bad stuff, you've helped somebody
It's
out
not
and
absolutely not. It's just when I went back to these memories, obviously there was
hmm.
always some nasty stuff going on. So probably
Oh
when
yeah,
so when I was a witch, they wanted to burn me on on the
right.
fire and stuff. So I had to save
Yeah.
myself from there. So it's fun. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
but it's always some first there is always something wrong. That's why we go
Right.
back there because there is a negative emotion there. But then when we
Right.
release it, we rewrite it. So it's so interesting because I can see when I do the sessions for myself and then I am in that memory, let's say the fire one, like when I was a witch and then the queen wanted to burn me. So basically, I was in a prison, and when I had these emotions, this fear or whatever I had that I was waiting for, to get out there and be burned, and then I had to release those emotions and replace them with safety and security and positive energies. And at the end, when the forgiveness before the forgiveness happening, there is a part of this guided healing when I always bring the client after the release, I always bring them back to the same memory in a column of
Mm,
light. And then in that column of light, I always see how the whole memory is shifting into a completely different reality. And in my case was so funny. So when I was this witch and then I released here the situation, I was actually saving the life of one of the guards because the guard started choking and then I asked them to let me out to save him and then I saved him and then they let me run away basically the guards and it's the whole memory was completely recreated
right.
and then that's how and then it's so I feel blessed because I'm very visual, I'm very comfortable with visuals, and for me it's like literally I see the memories reframe in my third eye,
Right.
and I'm also very visual in dreams. So it was since I was a child, I always had vivid dreams. I was always dreaming like a whole adventure, like Indiana Jones kind of story
Yeah.
every night. And then I woke up in the morning and I was always running to my mom to explain the whole story. And then I asked her, like, what did you dream about? And she said, about a bread. And I was like, okay, but what was the bread doing? And she was like, nothing. I just seen a bread. So it was so funny for me that I had all of those stories at night. I was actually happy to go to sleep every evening because I knew I'm going to another thing. And then
Right.
and then I didn't really realize for a while that other people don't have this. But when I started to realize it, I was like, wow, it could be something special. And no, I even when it's still happening every night. It's like, now it's for 50 years. And then
Oh,
basically I feel it like I am kind of like in a parallel reality or a parallel universe or somewhere I'm ending out because no, I started to see patterns. No, I started to see like differences and similarities with this earth, with this
mm,
life, like what, and then I can see different colors or different um how things are different. It's so funny. Sometimes I'm using mobile phones in my dreams, and then they are just different, like
right.
the apps and then you just freaking out, like, okay, how to do this on here. So I just enjoy all of this.
Yes, that's a beautiful experience. I have very vivid dreams too, like that, and have since I was a child. It's really magical, and it is kind of like I recall realizing that other people don't like fly to places and make portals in their dreams and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, my dreams are really fun. So yeah, that's awesome. All right, so before we wrap up, do you have any like current programs going? And then could you share, how our listeners can follow your work, support you, um, connect with you, maybe have a session or do some of these, I guess I'm not sure what you're calling them, like the 3-day things. How can they connect with you more?
Yeah, so I have a website, so everybody can look on my website is editbkis.com, and from that website they can reach my social medias. And I also have a Skool community. So I encourage everybody to join my Skool community is at skool.com, skool.com, and the community called Release with Ease. And basically, if you join there, you already get access to my meditation library, to my life transformation system course. And then if you leveling up in the school, it's like a game, you need to level up, then you get access to more workshops. And basically, if you become a premium member, you can join a weekly call with me. If you are a normal member, then you have every second week a call. Basically, in that Zoom call, it's a group call when you can ask me questions, or we going through certain astrological portals, numerological portals. We're talking about, like what exercise to do now, or even we do a meditation together. So it's always different every time. And I call it mystery workshop because I never know what we're gonna talk about. And then we have the premium, the elevate group, which is weekly thing. And obviously you can also buy all of my other courses like the elemental light healer training for energy healing, or my facilitator training for the karma yoga healing, the Shivaism, Kashmiri Shaivism. I have the level 1, level 2, and level 3 programs for that. So these are all available. I also have the dragon training there as well. Like it's included in the elemental light healer, but if you only want to learn just about the dragon thing, that's a smaller training there. So there are so many stuff there. If you are a spiritual freak and you want to learn all of these techniques and travel in dimensions, then it's a really great place to come. Also, if you are someone who's suffering from PTSD or depression or panic attacks, then also I encourage you to join, and then we can jump on a call and talk about it. And basically you can do also the 30 days incubator, which is like more hands-on and more powerful healing.
Beautiful. That I just love the variety of your work. It's just really cool to connect with you and kind of get a more insight into all of the things that you do. And it's just been a pleasure to have you on the show today, and I've really enjoyed connecting with you. So thank you so much for making the time to come on.
Thank you, Astra. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you all for tuning in. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.